Hello there. Welcome to part 2 of reacting and breaking down this article on ProWritingAid.com. How to write a fiction book, 10 steps you can't miss. Yes, this is part 2. And this is actually the same day that I recorded part 1. So hi again. Hi there. How are you? How are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing, friends? So, we are going through to part 2. Part 1 was the first 5 steps. Part 2 is the last 5 steps. So the first 5 steps was, if you don't remember, choose a story idea, define the central conflict, develop your characters, set the stage, and plan your key plot points. So that was the first 5 steps, and so we're going to go on to the next 5 steps. Step 6, pick the POV, which is point of view, that suits your story. This is where they're going to do it, okay? I'm saying that because wouldn't you do that during your story idea stage or you're developing your character stage? Like, why do you need to break it up like this? Do people actually break it up like this when they're planning or outlining a story? I have no idea. I'm a pantser. Before you start drafting, you need to decide the point of view you'll be writing in. Here's a quick reminder of the 4 most common POVs in fiction writing. First person, second person, third person limited, third person omniscient. Second person. Do people still write in second person? Oh, please do not write in second person. It gives me a headache. Each option comes with its own positives and negatives. For example, first person would feel more intimate than third person omniscient, but third person omniscient gives you access to more characters' thoughts and feelings. Point of view is also closely intertwined with form and structure. For example, if your story takes the form of a confession from one person to another, first person makes the most sense. But if your story is a choose-your-own-adventure story, second person makes the most sense. I see. So it's the choose-your-own-adventure stories that write in second person. I see. Are there a lot of those still? I remember when I was a little kid, I had this choose-your-own-adventure story book. However, I think it wasn't like you do this or you do that, but there was a protagonist and he would do different things depending on what you chose to do and what page you went to, which was kind of fun. I liked that book. I can't even remember the title or anything, but I liked it. There was some kind of what is that called? It's like the wishing teller or something. You know, you write numbers on a piece of paper and you move your fingers and you go wah wah wah, and then you kind of choose one, and then you'd say pick a number, and then you go like 1 2 3, and then you say pick a color, and then you'd like be able to tell your fortune or something. It was one of those that you had to make in order to sort of play this choose your adventure book. If you guys know what I'm talking about and you know what book it is, please tell me what that book is, because I don't remember. What I do distinctly remember is that there were flamingos in the story. I distinctly remember that, and I also distinctly remember there was this eye symbol in the story. Not the Illuminati or anything like that, but it was an eye symbol or something. It was like something Egyptian or hieroglyphic. I had no idea, but there were flamingos. I remember that. And the book was kind of pinkish. I remember that. And the protagonist was a boy. I remember that. Anyway. Oh, that was step 6. Oh, step 6 is just this. So they do have articles linking to first person, second person, and third person limited, but not third person omniscient, which I find is kind of interesting. I have a story that I've written in third person omniscient. There are a whole bunch of characters. Omniscient people get confused with third person omniscient and multiple point of view. Those are two different things. Third person omniscient, you don't have italics thoughts. That's called seeing inside their head, hopping into somebody's head. Multiple point of view, you might have sections. You might have the story in sections or chapters, like jumping between one character and another, and you will have italics thoughts, and you will be hopping between their heads. But if you do hopping between their heads, head hopping in third person omniscient, that's not omniscient anymore. That's just multiple point of view done in a confusing way, because now all the characters are thinking it all at the same time and you're seeing all of it. But in third person omniscient, you need to write it in more of a as if you're narrating the story is how you would tell it. So you won't actually give italic sauce. So instead of saying, I feel thirsty right now, thought Henry, you would say, Henry was thinking how thirsty he felt. And even though that's kind of telling, you can do it in a way that doesn't seem that way. I did a lot of experiments, so I could maybe make a video on it. I don't know. Anyway, we're moving on to step 7. Do I have anything to say about the POV being in step 6? Yes, I do, because isn't that something that you would come up with when you're developing your character? And I think it was like step 3 or something like that. Yeah, in step 3, when you develop your character, wouldn't you think about the POV then? Why are you thinking about it? Why you have to think about it separately in another separate step? I don't know why you need to do that. Anyway, I structured this slide in a very interesting way. It's stairs. Set a writing schedule. Okay, here we go. Here we go with the writing schedule stuff. Hopefully they don't tell you to write every day. Now that you have the basics of your book planned out, it's time to plan your writing sessions. Many people have an idea for a novel, but few actually make it to the finish line. That's because writing a book takes a long time. Remember that the key is consistency. If you don't have hours of time to write, you can find smaller moments. Every time you're waiting in line, pull out your notebook. Every time you're about to open a social media app, open the Notes app instead and work on your story. You can set daily word count goals for yourself if you want. Depending on the genre you're writing, a typical novel is between 60,000 and 100,000 words. Oh, really? Did that change? I feel like people have said a typical novel is between like 80,000 and 100,000. I could be wrong. But 50,000 is like a little bit more than a novella. But it still could be a novel length if it's a 50,000 word novel. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think you should write towards those word counts. Like if it turns out to be shorter than that, fine then. It's a novella. There's nothing wrong with a novella. And you don't have to write to get to exactly 100,000 words. If it goes over that, like if you're really, into the story and you have a lot to say for this story, then that's fine. Go over it. It's fine. It's fine. So, I mean, it's good that they give a sort of estimate on how many words that you might need to write, but I mean, I don't think that it's important to know at this stage in the beginning when you haven't even started yet. I feel like people who are new, like they would be intimidated by this. Like, oh my God, I've never written that much in my life. I would have been intimidated. I mean, I was intimidated the first time I tried the nano challenge, of the 50K nano challenge. And what was the first time I did it? 2013, I think. November. The one in November, but I did one before that. I did one in April to try to test myself. I was intimidated by 50K. So, and right now I kind of average like 80 to 90K. So, I mean, it took practice and stuff like that. But 60 to 100,000, I mean, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, there was no way I can ever write 100,000 words. And then one day I did. Not one day, but one time, one project, I did write over 100,000 words for a story, a single story. But in the beginning, this really intimidated me. I thought, no way am I ever going to be able to write like those people who write so many words. But anyway, I don't think they should say that here. This is something that maybe they can say in editing, or maybe they could say in tips for publishing or something. I don't know. Somewhere else. Now, somewhere else, not here. First, figure out when you want to finish your first draft, such as 3 months from now or a year from now. Then figure out how many words you need to write each day in order to accomplish that goal. For example, if you want to write 100,000 words in 2 months, you need to write 1,667 words a day. Using daily or weekly word counts will give you more manageable bite-sized goals. You can track your word counts in a calendar, journal, or spreadsheet to keep yourself motivated. It's interesting. Interesting. I've never seen a writing advice article say that you need to sort of give yourself a nano challenge. In a sense. I can't exactly... Well, National Novel Writing Month is a organization, I think created by writers, worldwide, challenge in November to write 50,000 words. Many writers who attempted this challenge have since actually turned their manuscripts into published books, such as The Night Circus by what's her name? I completely forgot. The Night Circus was one. I know that because I read that book, I think. And Water for Elephants was another one. I don't know if she actually did the actual challenge during that challenge time, but I remember seeing that Water for Elephants was something that she wrote during National Novel Writing Month. Or at least that's what she said, and I thought, wait, I love this book with all this research and detail. I mean, if she can write this, why can't I try to write something with a lot more detail and stuff like that? So, motivation. Anyway, yeah, National Novel Writing Month is when you would write the 50,000 and 1,667 words. A day is what people usually follow. So I don't know if they were thinking about that when they wrote this article, because 50,000 plus 50,000 is 100,000, if my math is correct. And so that would be like if you did 2 National Novel Writing Month challenges. Which, I mean, if you think you can, that would be pretty impressive. I mean, I can write 50,000 in like 2 weeks. I've done that before for National Novel Writing Month, not to brag or anything, but I was surprised too. I could have written 100,000 in a month, that means, right? Because if I wrote 50,000 in 2 weeks, and then there's 2 more weeks left of the month, I could have written another 50,000 in those 2 weeks. But I mean, I wasn't going to chance registering another National Novel Writing Month challenge. Maybe someday I will try to test myself to see if I actually could write 2 50,000 novels in a month, one after another, like I did for I did a 4-book series thing before, but that was 4 books in almost 2 months. So I was sort of writing 50,000 words in 2 weeks, and then another 50,000 words in another 2 weeks, and then, you know, I do that again for another month. So that means I can do it. Do I want to is the thing. Because writing a novel is actually pretty tiring sometimes. It really drains you sometimes. So anyway, the setting a writing schedule thing, I mean, at least they're not saying that you should write every day. They're saying you can set daily word count goals for yourself if you want. So please don't feel pressured to do that. Writing advice articles I've seen before, they say write every day. And I argue that no, some people can't based on their schedule. And it's like they're not taking that into consideration at all. But at least ProWritingAid seems to be kind of understanding of all different kinds of people. I yawned. Okay, step 8. So, write your first draft. Remember that first drafts are meant to be messy. It won't be perfect. The point of this draft is just to conquer the blank page and tell yourself the story. If you get writer's block, remember that it's okay to jump forward to a later scene. Many fiction writers draft their books out of order. You can also use placeholders to keep yourself going. For example, if you're stuck on a chapter, you can summarize that chapter in 1 or 2 sentences and just keep going. You can make a mood board or playlist to get yourself into the mood of your book. Don't be too hard on yourself if you can't hit your word count. Do whatever you need to do to get to the words "the end." Okay, so they pretty much gloss over to writing the first draft. Just kind of putting it all in one step. One single step. I feel like that's a bit much, but each their own, perhaps. I feel like my default now when I see something that's a little bit ridiculous, I feel like it's a little bit ridiculous, but maybe it's not completely ridiculous. Maybe it's my own just opinion. I say each to their own. Whatever you want to do. But in truth, I feel like they should have gotten us a little bit more into this first draft. Step 8. Write your first draft. I mean, yeah. But I see like people on Facebook writing groups and other writing forums and Discord and stuff. People saying that I did all this planning, but I don't know how to even start writing. Like I feel intimidated to start writing. And I'm going to make a video on, I made a list of different sort of common and uncommon concerns that people have with writing. And I'm going to give you guys and people some tips of mine based on my own experiences and stuff that's worked for me. So maybe it'll work for you. We'll see. And I'm going to do that actually on another channel. It's going to be a channel specifically of me just giving writing advice based on my own experiences, because that is the way writing advice should be. That is coming soon. Okay, so write your first draft in step 8. Just write the draft. This is the step. I don't know, having it in one step like this, it just seems like, oh, just write a draft. Just write a draft. It's no big deal. It's a big deal to some people, because the next step is put the draft away. We're not going to go over any tips with writer's block, any tips with imposter syndrome, any tips with world building, if it's a fantasy book or science fiction book, or research with historical fiction. Nothing to do with genre. We're not even going to go over any of the genres, any of the struggles that people have with their respective genres, anything. Not even, come to think of it, we haven't even gotten through with like pick your genre or anything like that. Nothing with that. Nothing. Really. Okay. So there's a lot of things that's happening in step 8, but we're just going to gloss over it and say write the first draft. The end. Moving on. Step 9 is put the draft away. I don't know what I think about this ProWritingAid, but Hannah Yang. I don't know. I feel like if not writing it in this article, like you want to have 10 steps because it's an even number. Okay, fine. At least put different links. And if you feel like you have writer's block, go here. If you feel like you need help on world building, go here. You should have some of that if you're going to do that. And if this is going to be tips for like planners, you need to make that clear too here in this first draft stage, because I'm pretty sure the way a planner writes a first draft is completely different than the way a pantser writes a first draft. So you need to make that clear if you want people to like get some help from your website. I had high hopes for ProWritingAid because I've seen so many people praise their tools, but I guess their writing advice articles are a little bit like all the others. Put the draft away. Step 9. This step is difficult but necessary. This step is difficult. The first draft writing step is not difficult at all, is how it's coming across. This step is difficult but necessary. Once you finish your first draft, give yourself some distance from your book so you can come back to it with fresh eyes. Put your manuscript in a drawer for at least a week, ideally a month. That way, you'll be able to see its strengths and flaws more clearly when it's time to edit. That was step 9. That is all I have for step 9. It's very, very short. It's very short, this step 9. And apparently, it's the most difficult step. Well, they didn't say it's the most difficult. They said it is difficult. They didn't say it's the most difficult, but that's what I'm interpreting it as, because none of the other steps did they say that this step is difficult. They're saying it's difficult here. Why is it difficult? Why do you think it's going to be difficult for some people? Maybe explain that a little bit here. It's not difficult for me. I'm pretty much like, I don't even want to think about the story anymore, and I put it away for even up to 2 years sometimes. Anyway, while I work on other things. So, and if it's difficult for some people, then maybe you could break down how it's difficult. Like maybe say something like, this step is difficult because maybe you still want to work on that story, or maybe you want to edit it right away. But you can't do that, because when you do that, you're just so close to your story that you might not see the mistakes or the flaws that it has that need to be fixed. You've been working on this story constantly, maybe even for a constant year, so you really need a break. And sometimes your brain puts things in that aren't there. But you just need a break from the story. And if you come back after a week, or ideally a month, you will be able to look at your story with fresh eyes, as if you're a whole other person. And you can look at your story objectively and catch the flaws and mistakes. Something like that. Something like that would have been a little bit better maybe if you can expand this step 9. It would be making hand gestures to expand. You can imagine whatever you want to imagine that I'm doing. Just expand this step 9 a little bit more with the why it's difficult for some people, because some people might not feel like saying, oh, I finished writing the story, so I'm going to edit right away. They might not feel like putting it away then is difficult. So, I'll just put it away for a few days or a week. Or no, it's not difficult at all for me to put it away. Why would it be difficult? That's a weird thing to say. I don't know. Anyway, I think they should just expand this step. Give some more explanation for the people. Step 10 is revise. Now it's time to take your messy first draft and make it better. You should start with big picture developmental edits. For now, resist the urge to start making line level edits, such as adding commas or rephrasing sentences. Chances are you might not even need those paragraphs after your developmental edit. Instead, focus on fixing plot problems, strengthening your character arcs, and adding or deleting scenes if necessary. After those structural issues are solved, you can go back in and revise the smaller things, such as checking your transitions to make sure they're flowing smoothly and making sure your dialogue is clear and readable. ProWritingAid can help you edit your manuscript by checking your sentence structure, word choices, sensory details, and more. So yeah, they do have a writing tool. So, is there more after this? Tell me. Yeah, okay. Once you feel you've revised your book as much as you can alone, it's time to ask other writers you trust or beta readers within your target audience to give you feedback on your manuscript. If you plan to self-publish, you may even want to hire a professional editor to take a look at your story and help you improve it. Dun, dun, dun. That is the end. Okay, before we get to the end, step 10 is revise. Started with big picture development. At this point, they should have a link to an article specifically about developmental edits and what that actually entails. Because just glossing over in this one sentence where it says, instead, focus fixing on plot problems, strengthening your characters, and adding or deleting scenes if necessary. I mean, that's just really just glossing over what developmental edits is. I think they should really write an article or make an article if they don't already have one, or link it to this developmental edit part, because that entails a lot of stuff. I mean, I do a lot of sort of developmental edits myself, but I also got developmental edits done by a professional editor, and oh boy, it entails a lot of stuff. So if you've never done developmental edits in your entire life, like this is your first time writing a story, then you're not going to know what to do at all. Because for a long time, I had no idea what I needed to do. So anyway, and I had no idea what I was doing when I even started editing. I didn't know what I was, even doing. I didn't even know the word developmental edit until I started looking for editors. Okay, so I think, Hannah Gang, you need to write an article specifically breaking down what exactly developmental edits are and what exactly editors do during developmental edits, and maybe even interview some editors, because different editors can have different ideas maybe about what developmental edit looks like. And you also should make an article about line level edits, because although you say, such as adding commas or rephrasing sentences, that's not all that line level edits are. Because right now I have my manuscript back from my line editor, and I am currently going over the line edits, and it really isn't all about adding commas and rephrasing sentences. There are some sentences that are rephrased or made to read smoothly, but adding commas. It's not just about adding commas. Oh my gosh, there is so much entailed in saying line level edits or line editing. So you need to make those 2 articles, and that would really help someone who's like, I don't really know what the difference between those are. Like, is this part of developmental edits or line level edits? I don't even know what line level edits means. And it's such a tongue twister. Can't you just say line editing? Line level edits. I don't know why I have so much trouble saying that. Anyway, so it would be good to make an article about that too. So you would have 2 additional articles linking to this one on developmental edits and line editing. So that will be very helpful for people who come to this step and you're like, okay, I'm on step 10 now. What do I need to do? Not telling me anything about this editing stuff. You're just sending me to your tools. But if they think they want to try to do it on their own, because then they can learn that way, then maybe you send them to an article that talks about those different kinds of editing. Maybe. So, yeah. Anyway, once you feel you've revised your book as much as you can alone, it's time to ask other writers you trust or beta readers for their target audience. Okay. At least they're not saying you should join a writer's group or something like that, or you should ask your friends or family. At least they're not saying that, because some writing advice articles tell you to ask your friends and family and stuff like that. And what? Not everybody has friends and family that will read their manuscript. Not everybody wants their friends and family to read their manuscript either. So, I mean, depends on the person here. But at least ProWritingAid is not saying that. At least they're saying ask other writers you trust. Because that could be, anybody. Maybe these other writers are your family and friends. Maybe these other writers are in a writing group or a club or at your school or at your workplace or your neighbor or, I don't know, your partner. Or if you're an older person, you have an older child, maybe that child who was in high school or college could help you out. I don't know. Maybe it's writer friends online that you trust, people you trust online, which is a weird thing to say these days, but it's true. You can trust people online now. Writers especially, I think, and people who like cats. Beta readers within your target audience is really hard to find unless you have some sort of social media presence. I'm not saying it has to be Facebook or saying it has to be Instagram, but it's some kind of social media presence. Otherwise, I guess you have to search for them in your local area or something, like a library or something. I don't really know how people who aren't on social media find better readers. I have no idea how they do that. If they do, and if they are able to find people, I don't even know the situation about people like that who aren't on social media at all. Like, I can't even fathom that. Like, how do you find people joining writing clubs and stuff like that? But what if you live in a country that doesn't speak English much? Like, I live in Japan, and there's nothing around here. There's nowhere for me to go, so I have to rely on people online. Oh, my throat is so parched. My water is going down. Hope you are keeping hydrated. And now they talk about if you plan to self-publish, you want to hire a professional editor. You might want to. I mean, think about your budget and stuff like that. It's fine to think about your budget and try to work within your budget. It's fine. You can still get good enough quality stuff out there. Anyway, conclusion. How to write a fiction book. There you have it. Our favorite tips for writing fiction. I clapped. ProWritingAid, you said these are 10 steps. Now you're saying these are our favorite tips. What is going on here? What is going on? Are people... Steps and tips are not synonymous, last I checked. Or are they? This is so weird. So many writing advice articles say, here are some steps, and they give you tips. Here are some tips. No one has given tips and then given steps. Here are some tips, and then here are some tips. But why are you giving steps and then you call them tips? That is so weird. That's so weird. They should have just said, there you have it. 10 steps to write a fiction book. Why couldn't they just said that? Anyway, novel writing is a daunting task, but anyone can do it if they take the time to build their writing skills and work on their story consistently. Do you have any favorite tips for writing a novel? Share them in the comments. Yeah, share them in the comments of this video too, please. Thanks you. So that is the end. That is their conclusion. That is it. They don't go into writer's block. They didn't go into world building. They didn't go into, I don't don't know. What else did they not go into? So much stuff about story writing. This kind of glossed over. It's just, oh, write the first draft, and now we're moving on to putting the draft away. That is very quick. So yeah, that was How to Write a Fiction Book, 10 Steps You Can't Miss by Hannah Yang on ProWritingAid, written December 28, 2022. And that was part 2. So if we go, please, can we go back? Yes, we can go back. So part 2 was pick the POV that suits your story, set a writing schedule, write your first draft, put the draft away, revise, revise, revise. And so that is part 2. And then that concludes the entirety of this ProWritingAid How to Write a Fiction Book, 10 Steps You Can't Miss article. 10 Steps You Can't Miss, exclamation point, by the way. So it should be more like How to Write a Fiction Book. Why am I saying books? How to Write a Fiction Book. 10 Steps You Can't Miss. That's what the exclamation point does. Now, if you will look at the screen, if you're not looking at the screen, here I have the steps of 3 writing advice articles. So from the right hand side, we have ProWritingAid, and this was the number 1 search result. And then the next one, we have Jerry Jenkins, which was at number 2. Reezy Team was, I think, at number 4 because the number 3 one was Masterclass, and we already covered that in a different episode series. So we have 10 Steps by ProWritingAid, 12 Steps by Jerry Jenkins, and 13 Steps by Reezy. And I thought it would be interesting to compare these 3 at the end here. So they all start the same. ProWritingAid says choose a story idea. Jerry Jenkins says nail down a winning story idea. Reezy Team says pick a story idea with novel potential. I don't know if they mean by novel as in new potential or as in novel potential as in, a novel, a book, or are they putting those 2 together and being kind of quirky? I have no idea. Anyway, see, they all start the same, but the second one is a little different. ProWritingAid says define the central conflict. Jerry Jenkins says determine whether you're an outliner or a pantser. So he's focusing more on as you as the writer, which I did think was nice. I thought was nice. I mean, not many writing advice articles talk about pantsing. Reezy Team step 2 is develop your main characters. So Reezy Team is already developing main characters by step 2. Okay? So ProWritingAid at step 3 is develop your characters. So finally ProWritingAid is catching up to Reezy Team here. And now we have Jerry Jenkins, step 3, create an unforgettable main character. So he's just talking about the main character. I don't think he talked anything about the antagonist. And Reezy Team at step 3 talks about the central conflict and stakes. So they develop the characters and then think about the central conflict. ProWritingAid thinks about the central conflict and then develops the characters. I do not know which would be better. Or are they both not good? Because we have define the central conflict, okay, and then develop your characters. I feel like those 2 shouldn't even be separate steps. I feel like it doesn't make sense that those 2 are separate steps. Because if you're developing your characters and you're thinking about the flaws and stuff and values that they have, wouldn't you also define the central conflict at that point? Because it's about their goals and their stakes and stuff like that. I don't know. Step 4, ProWritingAid says they want you to set the stage. And Jerry Jenkins is still expanding your idea into a plot. So he brings out the story idea thing twice. So at step 1 and step 4. And then Reedsy Team says to write a logline or synopsis. I don't know where Reedsy Team is going. I feel like they added this in here just to make it 13 steps. I don't know. And so then we have step 5, which is plan your key plot points for ProWritingAid. Research, research, research for Jerry Jenkins. And we have structure your plot. So, wait a moment. ProWritingAid says plan key plot points. And Reedsy Team says structure your plot. Somehow, they cut off to each other. They're both talking about figuring out how the plot goes. And Jerry Jenkins is stuck in research. Okay. Well, ProWritingAid says pick the POV that suits your story. We just went over that. It's step 6. POV. Okay. Jerry Jenkins is also POV. Reedsy Team is also POV. It's very interesting that by step 6, they're all thinking about POV. Wouldn't you think about that at step 1, guys? Please, 3 of you, come on. Hannah Yang, Jerry Jenkins, whoever wrote this in Reedsy Team. I don't know what's going on here. Why is this a separate step? I have no idea why this is a separate step. It just doesn't make sense to me. Is it just me? Is it just me? Am I just being weird? ProWritingAid goes on to say set writing schedule. Jerry Jenkins, he gets really into the actual writing part of the first draft, which we know, we went over it just now. ProWritingAid just says write the first draft in step 8, and by 9 we've already written the draft, which is such a weird thing. Jerry Jenkins goes more into sort of like the story, like how to at least get through the story. So he says start in the midst of things. And Reedsy Team, step 7 is when they finally choose a setting. So I don't know how you can develop a character without choosing a setting. I have no idea. No idea how that is going to work. I mean, really? Okay. And then Reedsy Team at step 8 is they finally talk about writing routine, and by step 8, Hannah Yang has already written her first draft. I mean, I'm using her right now. I don't know if she actually follows these steps. That's the thing. But Jerry Jenkins says, engage the theater of the reader's mind. He's being very philosophical here, which is nice. But I think he was talking about being engaging. So he's really talking about, he really breaks down the sort of story, you know, how to write the actual story, and not just talking about the process of writing a story. You know what I mean? So now, at step 9, ProWritingAid is already putting the draft away. They're already done. They're done. They're done. And Jerry Jenkins is talking about intensify your main character's problems. Reedsy Team, I don't know when they finish writing their first draft, because at step 9 it says shut out your inner editor. I'm guessing they're still writing the first draft, because in step 10 is revise and rewrite your first draft, which I don't think you have to rewrite it unless you really feel like you need to, because rewriting is a whole big undertaking. Step 10 is revise, and interestingly, ProWritingAid step 10 is also revise. So they've caught up with each other again. But Jerry Jenkins hasn't finished doing anything yet. He says, make the predicament appear hopeless. So he's really going down deep into the nitty-gritties of a novel. Not his sort of end goal isn't to actually publish the novel or to revise the novel. It's just to write this first draft. That's what I feel like. That's what I feel like his 12-step guide is for. It's just to write the draft. The end goal is to write the draft. ProWritingAid's end goal, as we just went over, was to get to the revision, I guess. Reezy team goes into actually going to publish your novel. So they actually talk about publishing your novel, and I think they mentioned querying. They might. So these all have very different sort of flavors of 12-step, not 12-step, flavors of step guides. All their goals are different, and yet, the titles of these articles, okay, ProWritingAid, how to write a fiction book. This is before the colon, okay? ProWritingAid, how to write a fiction book. Jerry Jenkins, how to write a novel. Reezy team, how to write a novel. So they don't talk about exactly the goal, what the actual goal is. Their goal is to publish the novel. Jerry Jenkins' goal is to write the first draft. ProWritingAid, Hannah Yang's goal is to come to a point where you can revise your story. And then maybe thinking about publishing, maybe. So it's very interesting. It's kind of very misleading too. Because if you go into it and you see these steps and then you go to another article, you see these steps and you're like, wait, these are different. And these go into a different order than the other one that I looked at. What am I supposed to do? I have no idea. What do they want us to do? I have no idea. Anyway, that was an interesting comparison, wasn't it? I thought it was interesting. If you didn't think it was interesting, tell me what you did think was interesting. Anyway, that is the end. So, how to write a fiction book, 10 steps you can't miss. Was this a good writing article for writers? Did ProWritingAid Hannah Yang do her job? 10 steps though. I mean, I feel like she could have, if she could add more steps. I don't know if you want to add more steps to the thing. She could have added, I don't know. I really don't want to say this. I'm gonna anyway. Could have if she wanted to, which I don't want her to, but add some more steps into what writing the first draft entails. Or at least link to some advice articles on, like, I don't know, writer's block and world building and research and stuff like that. Feel like Jerry Jenkins goes into, right? He goes into like the first draft stuff. That should all go into step 9. Almost all of his 12 steps need to go into step 9 of ProWritingAid's 10 steps. That's what they're missing there, in the middle there. Not in the middle, towards the end. Wait, what was, write your first draft is step 8 for ProWritingAid. Yeah. Jerry Jenkins, step 7 to 12 can go into step 8 of ProWritingAid. And then if you add a little bit of step 11 to 13 of Reezy Team into the end, after revise of ProWritingAid, then you really get the full thing, maybe. Although, some parts I don't understand why they have to be separate steps, like set the stage and define the central conflict and develop your characters. I feel like those are all should be together, so 1 to 4 should all be sort of slip sucked up together. That's what I think. Anyway, that is the end of this video. It's probably another incredibly long video, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that was interesting at the end to compare 3 of the articles that I did look at and compare their steps and the order of things that they go into, and let me know what you think about those 3 versions of step guides. Let me know what you thought of this ProWritingAid article. I would say I wouldn't call it problematic. Maybe I give it a 3-star out of 5. It was okay. I mean, like, it was better than some. There were a lot of problematic things that I've seen in other writing advice articles that they didn't talk about here, like write every day and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess I would give it a 3-star. Yeah, probably. Anyway, have I already told you to leave a comment? I probably did. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and like this video if you liked it, if you enjoyed it, even a little bit, like this video. Subscribe, please. And yeah, is there anything else I need to mention at the end? Subscribe, like the video, check out my Patreon. I have a Patreon, yeah, and where I talk about my own books and write articles about books. That's it. I hope you have a lovely day. Yes, I should say that this was part 2 of the ProWritingAid article. I'm not sure what the next one's series will be. I do plan to look specifically at Show Don't Tell, because I know there's a lot of articles on that. I want to look at that and see what they say. Okay, so I'm probably going to do that. And also, yes, my other channel on writing advice will be coming. It will be coming soon, sometime soon. And of course, you will get more scrolling reaction videos on this channel. Anyway, that's it. I hope you have a lovely day. And the fox is out.